On the evening of August 2nd, 1921, the fog-heavy town of Colma, California, was quiet. Then, Father Patrick Heslin received a knock at his door. A stranger standing in the shadows claimed his brother was dying of a sudden illness and needed a priest immediately. Without hesitation, Father Heslin gathered his sacramental materials, climbed into the passenger seat of the man's Ford Model T, and drove off into the night. He never came back. By the next morning, the local diocese was in a panic. 2 days later, a typewritten ransom note arrived at the church. It demanded $6,500 in cash for the priest's safe return, instructing the church to place a classified ad in the San Francisco Examiner when the money was ready. The church complied and placed the ad, but they added a strict condition. They wanted proof of life. In response, the kidnapper went completely silent. Keep in mind, this was 1921. There were no cell tower pings to track, no security cameras to pull, and no physical leads at the church. The police were operating in a total vacuum, and the investigation ground to a halt. Weeks went by. Then, a local baker named William Hightower walked into the police precinct with a fantastic story. He claimed he had been drinking at a speakeasy and overheard a local bootlegger drunkenly bragging about the kidnapping. Hightower told police the bootlegger had buried something on the desolate, windswept coastline of Salada Beach. Desperate for any break in the case, investigators followed Hightower out to the dunes, where he walked straight to a specific, unmarked patch of disturbed sand. When the police dug into the dune, they found the body of Father Heslin. He had been struck on the head, shot twice, and wrapped in a heavy, distinctively waterproofed canvas. Hightower stood by, fully expecting to be lauded for his help. Instead, the lead investigator ordered him put in handcuffs. Detectives questioned how a man could navigate to an unmarked, featureless patch of sand on a massive coastline with such impossible precision. It suggested that Hightower wasn't recalling a story he'd heard. He was returning to a spot he already knew. Knowing Hightower was the killer and proving it to a jury were two very different things. To secure a conviction, prosecutors relied on comparative forensics, a relatively new concept for juries in the 1920s, where investigators scientifically compare crime scene evidence against items found in a suspect's possession. Detectives executed a search warrant on Hightower's boarding house room to hunt for physical connections. Inside, they recovered an old typewriter, a brand new tent missing its floor, and a .45 caliber handgun. Looking at this direct visual comparison between the original ransom note and a sample typed by police on Hightower's machine, you can see how typewriters act much like fingerprints. Over time, the metal keys develop unique wear patterns from repeated strikes. A typography expert demonstrated that the E on Hightower's typewriter was slightly elevated, and the left crossbar on the T was heavily chipped. These microscopic anomalies matched perfectly across both documents. This typographical match directly tied Hightower to the ransom demand, completely dismantling his story about an anonymous bootlegger. Next, investigators turned to the tent found in his room. It had a ragged, irregular hole cut directly out of the floor. During the trial, prosecutors brought the canvas wrapped around the priest's body into the courtroom. They physically aligned the jagged edges of the murder canvas with the hole in the tent floor. Every ragged thread and cut line sat flush against the other. The match was confirmed by more than just the shape. Experts analyzed the specific fabric weave and the unique waterproof chemical treatment applied to the material. Finally, investigators examined the .45 caliber handgun recovered from Hightower's desk. The gun was missing 2 rounds. The bullets remaining in Hightower's possession matched the exact caliber and manufacturing batch of the bullets recovered from the victim. Between the typewriter linguistics, the physical alignment of the canvas, and the ballistics, the prosecution had built a scientifically proven architecture of physical evidence that Hightower couldn't escape. Hightower's actual motive was terribly simple. He had recently lost his job, was drowning in debt, and made the assumption that the Catholic Church would quietly pay a ransom out of an inexhaustible fund. He never planned on managing a hostage situation. Hightower murdered Father Heslin almost immediately after picking him up, burying him on the beach before he ever bothered to type out the ransom note. His entire scheme collapsed the moment the church demanded proof of life. He couldn't provide proof for a man who was already dead. Realizing the $6,500 was out of reach, Hightower panicked. He invented the hero narrative and the imaginary bootlegger, pivoting his plan in a desperate attempt to at least collect some reward money for finding the body. Faced with that overwhelming weight of physical evidence, the jury deliberated for only a few hours. William Hightower was found guilty of first-degree murder and sentenced to life in San Quentin State Prison, where he remained until his death. The case stands as an early triumph of pattern matching in the courtroom. It proved that while a killer can craft an elaborate verbal lie, the physical world always leaves an undeniable trail.